Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Black Coffee and Anime, our podcast covering My Hero Academia this time around. Tonight, we're going through episodes 13.5, so that recap episode through episode 18, which is the Cavalry Battle Finale. Might be 18 or 19, depending on what service you're watching it through. But really happy to have you here. If you know people that are interested in catching up on My Hero Academia or anything like that, please share. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're just trying to kick this off. We're typically a game content channel, but love anime and would love to grow this portion of our community on the channel. So if you know somebody that might be interested, shoot them a link, see if it's their thing, and hope to see you guys in the comments. But let's get into it. Yeah, we need to have Robert do his quick synopsis for us of this arc.
All right. Giant race. Giant robots. Deku pulls a Naruto, wins the race. Classic Asian game. Random horsey riding. Shenanigans ensue, but somehow they still win. That's about it. I think I hit on every key part.
That was all the important moments summed up beautifully. Robert, we appreciate it.
Race, robot, Naruto shenanigans, winning, strange Japanese game, shenanigans, not winning, but making it in. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you got it. You covered it all.
Just remember, without the robot, he wouldn't have the plate to do the jump. I'm just saying, that was key.
It's true.
Everybody likes robots.
So, we had that recap episode. Any thoughts on like the recap episode thing? Like I feel like so many people just have the ability to like binge. I don't know if it's necessary to always include that recap.
I won't lie, I actually hate them and like they bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually watching JoJo with my wife, and they have recap episodes like every so often. I mean, the season's like 50 episodes, so like they probably had 2 or 3 throughout the thing. And I was like, "Can we just skip this? This is so lame." And my wife's like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay then, let's watch it. Can't
Sounds
wait."
Good thing I get to watch again what I already watched. Sweet.
Exactly.
I think the thing that always drives me nuts about the recap episodes is that they're actually worse than filler episodes to me, because at least filler episodes will like offer some comic relief, or you get like a fun side story that has like zero bearing and meaning to like the grander story at large, but it's still funny and it's like enjoyable. Whereas like with a recap episodes, you're like, yep, I know. Yeah. I just watched it.
Yeah. No, like Goku Piccolo driving cars. You get to watch Yamcha's Wolf Fang pitch. Like, dude, just so many classic moments come out of the.
Well, I feel like Dragon Ball Super had that baseball episode is probably my favorite episode of all, and it's filler. But like the filler in Naruto, having read like all the manga, like it just killed me so much. I'm like, that's not a real person.
So first episode, we've got Uraraka basically explaining what is the reason she wants to be a hero. I know, Blake, you had said that she was one of your favorite early characters. How'd you feel about like how they handled this? Is she still like a forerunner for you, or Robert, you got any thoughts?
I thought it was interesting that they expressed that, because it adds a layer of the whole hero thing, and how when you first hear about heroes, you assume like everybody's doing it to be good. Then you hear that it's a career, or it's like it's a chance to be famous, and you kind of see the opportunity for maybe that to be exploited, and maybe someone is just trying to be the number one hero to make money, and they're just like professional athletes kind of thing, where it becomes like this weird thing. And I think it's almost a good thing that they do this with her, because what it ends up doing is it kind of adds this other layer of things where you're not doing it just to be good because you're just a good person, or just to make money because you're a powerful person, but you don't want to break the law, so you make money like a legit way as a hero. But then it adds this other part where it's like people born with really good quirks that can get into a school and become heroes can make money for families who, it's like the professional athlete who grew up from nothing and became professional, and now they have millions of dollars, and they can take care of their family and stuff. And
Yeah.
you realize like, oh, that's another aspect of like these heroes making money that is kind of an interesting little branch off of the tree.
Yeah, I would just say the character selection is great, right? Because everybody likes your I can't say her name, Gravity Girl. That's what I call her. Because like you could just imagine if it was like Bakugo, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, the dude's such a dick," right? And if it was Mineta, you'd be like, "Why
Yeah.
is he even in here? He has the least desirable traits of everybody just into one character, right?" But when it's the main female protagonist, I guess, it makes it a lot more relatable, and I think that's important to the story and kind of makes everybody feel like, okay, there's a lot of different reasons to be a hero, right? And so,
Mhm.
I
well
think
played.
I think that this was the moment in the series where that switch got flipped, where you realized it almost like brought. It's funny because there's like quirks and all this crazy stuff happening, but it almost brought like a reality to this world where just like people that want to be police officers or firefighters or whatever, it's like they still have the goal to like provide for their family and stuff. And this is where I think I realize that this is just like that. It is a job, right? And it brings that sense of like this is actually a normal position in the world. It's not like the Justice League, right, where it's just heroes being selfless and doing things because they're altruistic. It's like no, it's like you're like a police officer or you're like a firefighter, like you are. And I think that was really cool because foreshadowing, ready? A lot of the episodes in the future get into like the hero agencies, and I think it was important to like flip that switch, then let people know that like there's this is a profession in this world, and don't look poorly on people that are doing it to make money or be successful, because they can still do that and want to help people. But I liked it. I thought it was handled really well.
I just want to throw in that you mentioned the Justice League. Let's not forget that the Justice League has Batman, who has $1 bajillion, and has Superman,
Okay.
who I'm guessing doesn't really need money considering he can do anything. So I'm just throwing it out there. Sorry.
No,
Let's
no,
move
no.
They're a pretty well funded organization.
So
All right, let's get to the good stuff, man. The
I know.
sports festival.
I
Let's
know. So
The-
going from that, we hop right into the beginning of the sports festival. Blake, you had a moment, right? This is
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and hit us.
I think so. My favorite moment, and I checked it just to be sure I said it exactly correctly. I love the fact that they have Bakugo come up and they're like, Bakugo is going to lead us in the pledge. And he walks up, and in Bakugo fashion, he stands behind the microphone and goes, I pledge that I'll be number one. And it's like he just immediately, and then I love it because they do that classic anime thing where everybody goes dark with the big, like,
Mhm.
angry eyes. And they're like, I knew it. I knew he'd do that. And everyone's like, you got the other classes are angry because he said it. Everybody
Yeah.
else in the stadium is like shocked. And then class 1A is like, come on, man. Like, you put a target on our back. They already hate us.
Yeah.
It's like classic Bakugo. And then, but I think the interesting thing about it is they don't leave it at that. And that's kind of what provides for a lot of the character development is like immediately after that, while everybody else is really angry about it, you see Izuku standing in the back and he clarifies behind it. It's Bakugo like putting a target on himself so that way he can prove to everybody
Mhm.
that he is the best, because it's motivation to him. Like, I want everyone to know that I'm going to be the best and I'm still going to beat them. Like, even
Right.
though they're all gunning for me, I'm still going to win.
I mean, that's such Bakugo's personality. It's a spells it out.
He's
Robert?
the best.
I know he's your man. So
Yeah, he's my man. He's the best. I just love, and this happens to me in every anime, right? Like, and I think when I was first watching this series, every time I watched a new episode, I'd be like, oh my god, Eraserhead's Kakashi and Deku's Naruto, right? And then I'm like, oh my god, now they're doing the little Chunin exam, right? And so I'm getting all amped because Naruto's my life. And watching this kind of brings back all the feels, and it's fun that this arc in every manga or anime now is kind of like my favorite thing, where like all the like main characters get to go in there and just like show what they're made of and like what they got, right? And it's always fun to see them use their powers for whatever the challenge is to get ahead. And then I think Deku really shows, especially in the race when he's being like creative. He doesn't necessarily have like the coolest quirk or the best jujitsu or whatever, and he's able to like think, okay, I want to ride this shield, right? Like, and use these landmines and just blast myself like to the moon, right? And I don't know, I just love it. I think it's so much fun watching them compete without like bad guys or anything like that, but just watching them kind of duke it out with each other. And it's just like one of my favorite things in anime now. And even though it's kind of like a trope and a pretty common thing now, I think, in anime, I still love it. It's super cool and creative what they can do and challenge the characters and stuff. So
yeah, Midoriya doesn't have ninjutsu, doesn't have genjutsu. He's just got his physical taijutsu, right? To speak Robert's language a little bit there. No, yeah, that was really good. So my favorite part came out of the first episode, right after they take off from the starting line. My boy gets like a moment this early in the show, which I actually forgot about this moment where Kirishima, like the robot, drops on him and he breaks out of it and he's like, oh, if that was anyone else, they would be dead. And then Tetsu like breaks out and he's like, oh, if that was anyone else, they'd be dead. And they like look at each other and they're both hurting and they're like, oh, it's so, I love that. Like, it's so funny that they made them just like so similar. It was, I laughed out loud. I love that part.
I do love, and there's more foreshadowing. There's more hijinks between the two of them and how they're so similar, and it is pretty funny.
I like it. I think this is probably the first show, because I'm not typically like that guy that's like, I love this really obscure tertiary character and he's my favorite and I'm going to get all the t-shirts with him on it. Like, I don't really do that stuff, but like Kirishima is just such a solid, like awesome character. Like, I love his personality. I love like the moments that he gets like this. Like, he is my favorite character. And this is like the first anime where I've been just, like actually drawn, because I feel like a little part of me kind of thinks that when someone chooses like a really abstract character, like they're just doing it to like do it. They don't actually. I'm sorry. This is not an at you, Blake, because I know you love Boba Fett.
I was gonna say I love obscure. I love the obscure characters. It's like he's drawn to like the weirdo.
Okay, so I kind of know how you feel, Dane. And again, going back to My Life as Naruto, right? It's like Choji like is always this guy who's basically like Shikamaru's sidekick.
Choji's awesome though. Like Choji's like actually like he's got a lot of character development that's actually good. But
what I'm saying is same thing with Kirishima is like these random things kind of happen. You kind of pay attention, and then there's that episode where Choji's going to fight the Earth guy, and he goes into butterfly mode and just goes all out, and you're like, Choji's the fucking man. Like, I love that dude. Yeah. He's like my favorite, right? And so I get where you're coming from. It's like, and again later on, Kirishima will have his moment where it's like the exact same moment where you're like, dude, he's so cool.
Yeah, he's
only kind of cool now. He's like so cool later.
Yeah. But like, I liked him before he was that cool. Like I liked him way before. Yeah, so that was my favorite moment. I love that. I just like the way that they opened up that relationship between, and I love this name Tetsu. That's so silly to me. I don't know what that means or what, but just the fact that his first name and last name are the same. If there's like abstract meaning or an inside joke or just
leave a comment.
Educate me, because I haven't done any research on that and I choose not to. So if you want to educate me, feel free. So anything else in like that opening episode where they take off?
I'm sorry, I obviously went well beyond the opening episode. I just I was like, here we go.
So we'll just finish the race then. I've got on our background actually right now, I've got one moment from the race, and it's the moment where Midoriya, it's actually, I think it was the first thing where I didn't like it really. Like, they did a lot of like jumping back and forth between like all of a sudden it was Midoriya flying through the air past everyone, and then they cut back to like back in time where he's like figuring out how to catch up and all this stuff. Then they cut forward to like when people were already running, and then they cut back to like him like putting all of the mines together and stuff. And I was like, this is really like, it's kind of choppy a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan of that way to explain that he like came up with a cool idea to launch himself forward. I mean, I thought it was really unique the way that he's like so set on not using his power, but he's got to learn to he's got to learn to flick his toes so that he can just like break a big toe and launch himself forward. That would have been the
I feel
changer.
like that's always like, and again, I'm obviously talking about Naruto a lot, but like whenever he would like come out of the ground, like when he fights Neji or whatever, and he like pops up out of the ground, then they cut into like, oh, this is how he thought about it, and this is all the stuff. Like, so it's very Naruto-esque in that, hey, he came up with a really cool solution. You see the finish, but before you see like what happens right after, they cut into like, oh, he did like these 14 different things, and then ta-da.
No, I get
so
that.
I'm kind of used to it.
No, I get that. But and like I know what you're talking about exactly, how they do like that after the fact explanation. But something, I have to rewatch it and actually pinpoint it. But something about this specific instance of them doing it like didn't sit, or it like felt awkward. So for some reason, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just like missed something on the rewatch. But something about it just felt a little off. But oh well. Still love it. It's all good.
You're just a hater, Dane. That's all.
Yeah, I just hate MHA, man. I just every little nitpick I can throw out there, I will. So then they finish, and everyone's excited, right? Everyone gets all pumped up, and their Midoriya wins. Spoiler: Midoriya wins.
You should have watched it, so it's cool. We're good. We're good.
And then the rug just gets ripped out, and I love that too.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting to, like, as you go through it, you realize that they have opportunities in the show where they use these moments to almost like teach Class 1A a lesson. Like, they're the ones that everyone is chasing. And I think sometimes when you're in that position, like, you feel driven to push yourself even farther. And that's kind of what they use. So Class 1A is always pushing harder and harder forward. But then what ends up happening as a result is they realize kind of like retroactively, like at the end of it, they look back and they're like, oh, there are consequences to always being ahead and always putting a target on my back. And they that's like the first time in the show where they like really realize that it's like, and I think they probably they experienced it, right? Where like, it's All Might, he's the symbol of peace, so everyone's going to target him. But like, they now have become the target of being in the front, and now they're the ones that everyone's looking at and everyone's looking to. So then the other classes are looking at them, and rather than like look at the situation and say, okay, like, how is this all going to play out? Like, because it's not like this isn't like something they're being thrust into for the first time. They said this is like the center of like everything to the general public. It used to be Olympics, now it's the sports festivals. And so it's like, it's not like they've never seen this thing happen before, but for some reason they just like black everything else out. They never think about how results matter, and they're just like, we're gonna win this first thing. And then they like kind of look back, and in Deku's like, oh, in hindsight, I may have not made the best decision to be so successful in the first one. But all he saw was Bakugo and Todoroki. Like, that's all he seemed to see throughout that whole thing, was like, I need to beat those two because they're in first place. And all those two saw was each other. So like, none of them looked at it from like the perspective of like, what happens if I win this thing? What happens in the next thing? They just were like, I just have to win. Like, I need to win. That's my only option.
Win at all costs. Which, you know, later in this arc, I think it's All Might. I want to say it's All Might who says that, you know, people underestimated Bakugo, like during the cavalry battle.
Yeah.
Like, and he basically says just that, like, you made a mistake in underestimating how driven Bakugo is to win. Yeah. Like, it's great. You outsmarted him. Like, good for you. Hope you feel great, because Bakugo's like, he is single-minded in that, and he's going to get you.
I think the cool thing about the cavalry battle, is I think it's hilarious that, you know, like, I don't know, when I watch like classic Asian games, right? Like it's like you like have to carry your teammate and run around and like grab headbands, right? That's like so Asian. Am I allowed to say that? I'm not going to say it. I don't care. That
What's
feels so
I mean,
Asian to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm like,
What's the one where they sit on the pole and it's like the team of like 50 people surrounding the pole and you got to get the other guy off the other team's pole?
you send the YouTube. I have no idea what it is, but wacky Asian games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We've all seen it, right? They got
Yeah.
the game shows, all that stuff, and like so to me, it's like, yeah, of course you're going to create a cavalry out of 3 humans and run around, right?
So
Like, of course,
awkward.
makes perfect sense. You have superpowers. Why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah.
So first, I got to get that out of the way.
That's fair.
But I think that the part that I really enjoyed of the cavalry battle was highlighting other people outside of Class 1A's quirks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you're starting to get a feel, and I think again we've mentioned it earlier. It's they do a great job of developing, Class 1A, professional heroes, the villains. I think this is kind of the start of kind of, building up like the peers of Class 1A and the other people in the school. Like it's not just like all the superstars are in Class 1A, although a large majority of them are, but a lot of people have cool quirks, and I think it's starting to come into play. And like you didn't really know about it, right? And it's like, oh, that's what he does, right? And later on, they'll continue to do that, and I think that's cool because they're just expanding kind of the world, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought like one of the quirks that I actually thought was probably one of the more interesting, the way that they showed it, was Monoma, the guy from 1B, that
Yep.
he can steal the quirks of people he touches. Like when he used that against Bakugo in the cavalry battle, I was like, oh, it's kind of dope. Too bad you're just an ass of a character, but I was like, that's kind of cool. I like that. And I like how they incorporated too, like the other cores or like the support core, making Hatsume. It was Mai or May? Like, dude, she's so crazy. I love her as a character too. Like, she's just
awesome.
like, yeah, she's on our background. She's lower right corner. It's she's just like all about that grind life, Robert. I'm sure you and Blake both appreciated
Dude,
that.
she is actually one of my favorite characters because she's absolutely bat crazy, right? And then it's like, and it's funny because again, Uraka. Did I say her name right? I think I did.
Uraraka. Uraraka.
Gravity Girl and now Inventor Girl, right? They kind of got the friendly little. They both like Deku. Granted, everybody likes Deku, right? But like,
I'm not convinced. Like, I mean, Hatsume has moments like later, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
in this moment, she's like, he's gonna help me sell my stuff. Like, he's gonna make me
Exactly. I don't think she's like absolutely in love with Deku, but she's
Mhm.
like, oh, like he's gonna use
Yeah.
like all this random crap, so I'm just gonna make all this for him. And so she's kind of like, who's Morgan Freeman in Batman Begins? Like the guy who's
Right.
like making the Batmobile
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, no, like she's interesting too because like if you watch, like she has that like sneaky thing too where I think a lot of the like 1A students kind of wonder like how could they be beat by like any of the other course students, because like they're 1A, right? Like they all have these amazing quirks and what's the business core or the support core, like what are those students even going to do
Mhm.
to them? And like May has this like great, like Hatsume, she has this like great moment where she totally like messes with Ida, and it's just the best
my
thing
God.
ever that she just
That's
like
the next that'll be
totally
next
bait and
episode.
switches him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, my god, it's
yeah.
amazing. But that's
That-
next
She's
episode.
she's just so smart about those moments where I think those are those interesting moments where you see some of those things where they start to really develop some of these side characters. And I think that's what really good anime does, is characters that start kind of on the fringe that you see occasionally. They do a good job of making them characters that you care about or that you kind of have knowledge of, and they bring them along with your main characters. It's like, yeah, we're going to know more about Izuku and we're going to know more about Bakugo and Todoroki and especially the students of Class 1A, but we really do in this show get to know a lot of those other ones. And I think this is where they start to develop some of those characters really well, and they start to bring some of them into the fold and make them a real, like, really feel like a part of the show.
Yeah. So, Robert, because I know that you just love Ida. You're a big Ida fan. What did you think about that moment at the end of the cavalry battle? Because I thought I was like, this is over. Like, I'm going back to like my initial watch through. It's like, Deck doesn't matter, Deku. You're so smart. You're figuring this all out. You got this big, great plan. And Tenya is just like, nah, fam. Recipro burst. Let's go.
This is going to sound terrible, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't really like him. I don't really like his backstory. Like, he's a total tool. And then, like, but like you mentioned, like, oh, he goes Recipro burst, and then I'm like, that's so lame. So I just don't like him.
The best, I think the best part about Ida's character in the whole show is his like weird outbursts, and the fact that they always frame him in the weirdest way, where like rather than just making him say things and try to correct his classmates, he's just like, what are you doing? And he's like always has to be doing this with his hand. I don't understand. It's like they just put him there and they're like, we're gonna make him just bizarre. Like, he's just gonna be a strange character. No one's ever really gonna be able to totally figure him out. Like,
no, it goes
just
back.
odd.
He's like, you know, like that they're not necessarily malicious, but it's like the straight A student class president who's just like, why are you like that? Like, why you gotta make all of us look bad? Because, like, you know, like when they're grading on a curve, but this motherfucker gets 100. Like, that's the problem. Like,
all agreed on C's. Come on.
You're killing us, man. Like, if we all had C's, we'd all get A's. But no, you gotta go and study like 48 hours and like straight up. Like, that's the thing that, like, deep in my soul, I'm like, I don't like you. Like, why don't you like him? He's a nice guy. It's like,
I think he's an.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's an interesting character too, because like as you learn some of his motivation is also different than everybody else's, because everybody else's motivations are very driven by being number one or being whatever. And his, like, you think about his motivations and you think they're right, like you think they're correct, but like really all he ever talks about in the show is like idolizing his brother, which theoretically is great. The issue is he's not trying to really be number one, or he's not, like, he's aspiring specifically to one person. And I think as a result of that, sometimes he gets tunnel visioned, and you can watch his character that they kind of focus on that thing where like all he focuses on and all he gets locked into is like behaving correctly or being perceived the right way. And, you know,
yeah, I think a lot of his motivation too, like, and he says it when he explains that he comes from like the Ida family, you know, hero agency. I think a lot of it, his motivation is to live up to his family name, which I think, like, I don't know.
Big deal in Asian culture.
I didn't want to say that. Yeah, I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to step on your toes, Robert. But I was like, Robert probably knows about that. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Uncle Roger, cook fried rice.
Cook fried
rice. Get this own if you use.
I'm cutting all this.
Why? It's a comedian. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
No.
Yeah. Do
I will
shame your family.
God. I will say, a little middle ground here. I don't necessarily love like him like declaring Recipro burst. I love the after the fact moment where everyone's like, "Whoa, what was that?" Like, that's like the moment that I think I actually appreciate from that scene, where like Yaoyorozu is just like in shock, like everyone's like mouth open, like what just happened, and like the eruption as they realize, and like I like that part of it. So I'll give you guys that. I mean, Ida can be a little
and also
awkward and crazy.
To be fair, you can't, like, all of us share one of our great loves in life is Dragon Ball, and to be fair, every powerful move that they have is just it's just them saying the move to do the move. Like, you know, like that's the reality of it, right? Like Recipro Blast sounds stupid, but then when you think about it, like at least he doesn't like do it. He's like Recipro blast, and it's pretty quick and over with. Sometimes
It's
is hard to watch
burst, right?
Goku go ka
Yeah.
ha, and you're just like, okay, come on, man, just get to the end of it. Like, we know what's coming. You're killing me with
The
that.
best Kamehameha that exists. He didn't even say it. He just uses it to grind on Kefla's
But
blast.
where
It
would
just
the memes
smashes.
be if it wasn't like Ka May and then 4 episodes later, ha?
Yeah,
Dude,
I
don't
mean,
even get me
100%.
started
I
on
just-
like Spirit Bomb episodes. Oh,
It's the classic meme, right? 2020 won't be that. 2020 is not going to be that long, and then it's just like 2020, and it's just Goku standing facing Frieza, and you're like, "Ooh, here we go." Recipro burst is definitely like, it can be annoying, but it's relatively quick and over with, and then we kind of move on with our lives. It would be so much worse if he stood there and was like Recipro, and you just be like, okay, someone just kill this dude. Like,
Come on.
somebody just please let him die. Like,
kill
I
this high
just
school
want to
kid.
see that in like a 3-episode arc because that would be kind of hilarious. I'd be like, "You're the man."
I would be like, I like this guy now. That's crazy.
He's my favorite dude. I don't know how I missed this.
Oh my
Oh.
god. So
mean, Yeah, he's just not as cool as everybody else. That's all.
then you got the moment where we kind of hit on it a little earlier, but Monoma, is it Monoma? I already forgot it, like how to pronounce that. The class 1B guy that steals quirks, or not steals quirks, but copies quirks.
jeez, what's his name?
He when he gets the headband from Bakugo, like Bakugo just goes off and like, oh, tape arm, dude, what's the tape guy's name?
Sero.
Oh, that's his name.
Zero.
Yeah, you got it right. Got it right.
He like pulls Bakugo back. He's like, dude, don't just jump off like that. And he just gives zero F's about it. He's like,
Bakugo's character arc is pretty well, like, you kind of get a really good sense of Bakugo throughout the cavalry battle or the beginning of the cavalry battle and through the obstacle race. You get a sense of what he is and who he is. I think the depth of his character comes later, but you get a sense of why he is the way he is, and you get a sense of how he operates. And then what makes Bakugo's character development great is that it's like, okay, now this is who he is. He's a hothead. He's kind of crazy. He sometimes flies off the rails, but they develop his character into something where you just go like, man, okay, I really like Bakugo. But it is like you start to get a better sense of who he is, but then at the same time you're just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to tolerate Bakugo being a little bit of a hothead if I want to like Bakugo as my favorite character. So
Tolerate, embrace, love that, man.
says our resident hothead. Well, I mean that kind of wraps up. So we got the cavalry battle finale, which is the last episode.
Yep.
And you get that moment where it's sort of the counterattack plan, right? Where Midoriya puts together like his like, we gotta get that headband back, and then whiffs on it, right? How do you guys feel about how they wrap that up? Did that feel forced at all to you? Like how?
No, I thought it was smart, right? Like, why wouldn't you change the positioning of the headband? Like, obviously, when I'm watching it and binging it, I didn't like think about it, but like made perfect sense to me. If that's your question, was that your question?
I'm talking more about how like Tokoyami was just like, oh no, we got in. Like, Dark Shadow just happened to snag a headband for points. It made sense, like the way, like I feel like they just kind of. That part felt a little bit to me like the writers, like that part, it made it obvious that the writers had decided who was going to be in the tournament, and then they just like made sure that's how the things fell. Like, they're like, Tokiyami's like, I just happened to grab a headband that got us in, so we're good. And
well, so it's funny because now that you mentioned that, I was like, oh no, it totally made sense that they switched to they, but then to your point, it's like, no, they could just left it there and let them grab it. You know what I mean? So then it's kind of like, wow, that was like the double fake out, right?
And that's not to say that I don't know that writers already have a story in mind and like are gonna have it play out how they want it to. I just don't like that felt a little bit like curtain pulled back. Like they wrote that part just to make it didn't seem
Clearly,
to
I
flow.
had already forgotten about it because I just remember the disappointment of I grabbed the wrong headband.
Oh yeah.
I think that part though, like I think the one part that can be like defended about the kind of a bait and switch thing that did feel a little forced because you got to get him in, but it felt like there was a sense of I think Eraserhead says something about it where he mentions that like Class 1B had a really good strategy and they like took advantage of like the tenacity or the of like that aggression that
Mhm.
Class 1A seems to have and how they kind of pushed too hard. And I think even Deku kind of where he gets kind of sucked in to what Bakugo is trying to do, just kind of like they're pushing so hard to be the best that they forget that being a hero isn't just about being the only one there. And that's part of the development too, I think, of the show and Class 1A as a whole, is that a lot of them look to All Might, and part of the development, like kind of spoiler alert, but not really, is like long term, you realize like All Might is not just a man, like alone on a mountaintop. Like there are a lot of people that helped him get there, and those people who support him and built him up. And I think what they're trying to do with some of it is kind of develop the characters of like Bakugo and Deku, where they're, even with Todoroki, are all three driven to try and be the best. That's what they want more than anything. And along the way, they kind of use some of this to start to develop that mentality of realizing that they're not alone. They have other people with them. And, whether it's Sero kind of pulling Bakugo back or Dark Shadow kind of saving the day, there's kind of this depth about the fact that they're starting to develop a sense of like Class 1A being a group of heroes, as opposed to like these three guys are trying to be the number hero and just everybody else.
Yeah.
Shout out to the first movie, and you'll know when to watch it because there's an episode telling you to go watch the first movie.
Yeah. We'll cover that.
Hashtag not kidding.
It actually is. Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, so we got how it falls at the end of that, so we know who makes it in. I think that is pretty self-explanatory. There's no like shockers, like anything. Unless you guys have thoughts on it, like who made it, who didn't. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think my thought is, and again, when we were talking about when should we kind of cut off, this podcast, it's because we're amped for the next part, right? Where it's one-on-one combat, and that's going to be amazing, right? So if you ask me about the games, I thought the race was super fun. I thought the cavalry was kind of like a little bit goofy, but it's all to set up for the one-on-one battles, for supremacy, which I am totally amped for.
Yeah, to get into talk about those, like the moments that occur in those,
yeah,
is gonna be sick. I hope that everyone, everyone, I think we're just gonna go through season 2 for the next episode. Could we all agree on that?
Yeah,
just through season 2.
Let's do it.
We'll finish out season 2 next episode. Dude, enjoy those episodes because they're a blast. It's so much fun to watch. But yeah, any last thoughts before we kind of close out this?
This may be early because obviously we're not done with MHA, but I've been seeing a ton of hype about Jujutsu Kaisen, and so I finally dove in. Starts off a little bit slow, maybe 4 episodes, but it is roaring now, and gonna give a shout out
to that show. Yeah,
watch it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
things like I'm watching Demon Slayer. Shut up.
No, I finished Demon Slayer. What's out? Also finished
get on board, baby.
Black Clover with what's out. Like, come on.
Get on Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's do this.
All right. No, we're not gonna promote any other anime because we're watching through My Hero Academia with all of you. No, dude. If you guys got time,
what if they've already watched it? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Check it out.
There's
good recommendation.
Plenty of time to watch through season 2 and more.
Just because, Robert, you inspired me, we should all give our anime recommendations. So you recommended yours already, Robert. Blake?
Sure. Yep.
I'm currently watching with my wife. We're watching through Black Clover, which has been absolutely amazing. And we just got through the arc where they have their like sports festival, their exams, their tuning
Yeah.
exams. So it's like it's the minute
Pick
that
your-
you know anime is legit when they follow the Naruto arc. So
Have you met Marileona yet?
yeah,
Blake?
yeah,
Yeah. Did you do the
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you do the volcano?
yep. The hot springs, yeah, the volcano.
Dude, at the end of that
It's
episode,
so
when they're
good.
like, and that the narrator's like, and that concludes our obligatory hot springs episode. I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, all of them do that.
Like, I love self-awareness in shows. It's my
Yeah.
favorite. My favorite thing is when shows just like call out a very aware thing, and that's one thing that Black Clover does. Is they're like
Mhm.
they actually will like have the narrator mention this is a point where we've done something that we have to do as an anime, and you're just like,
I appreciate
Okay, so
that. That's
now
great.
that you bring that up,
Yeah.
in Jujutsu Kaisen, main character is learning about like it's about curses, and curses are like the quirk or the ninjutsu or whatever. And then he's learning about them. He's like, I don't get a cool move like Bankai, which is Bleach, Rasengan, and like you see like the Bleach sword pop up and a little swirly thing, right? And like animated, it's like I don't get like a Bankai or a Rasengan or like stuff like that, and it's kind of hilarious. You know, for like
That's
5
awesome.
seconds, you just see all these anime things pop up,
That's funny.
and I really like that. That was funny.
But
It is good. Yeah.
everybody, next episode covering episode 19 through the end of season 2. So should be the whole UA Sports Festival. I'll put the actual episode numbers in the description below. So be sure to check that out. And hopefully you watch them up. You can listen to this episode or listen to this podcast in a couple weeks when it comes out and we review those, and hopefully keep having you guys join us and giving you recommendations in the comments, because I've literally taken those recommendations and it's affected what anime I watch and probably what anime we're going to cover next. But yeah, just appreciate everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe, get those notifications when our videos drop, and would really appreciate just any participation you can give us. Thanks for joining
Tell
us.
us your favorite Naruto moment.